So I was watching Canelo versus Crawford and I noticed a familiar face. This specific logo, Riyadh season.
What the hell is Riyadh season?
Then it clicked. WWE rings, boxing rings, UFC rings. Saudi Arabia is for some reason trying to monopolize combat sports. This is a systematic takeover of entire industries. WWE just announced that WrestleMania 43 in 2027 will be held in Riyadh, the first time WrestleMania has ever left North America. And the Royal Rumble is also heading there in 2026. The UFC has signed massive deals with Saudi Arabia. Boxing's biggest fights will now happen in Saudi Arabia, and the country at this point has spent upwards of $6 billion to make it all happen, with more spending on the way. So today I want to break down what's really happening here, because this isn't just about sports. It's about geopolitics, economics, and a strategy that should concern every combat sports fan who cares about the integrity of the promotions that they love. A little dramatic, but you get the idea. So what the hell is Saudi Arabia doing in combat sports? Before we understand that, let's first understand Vision 2030. Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman's ambitious plan to transform Saudi Arabia's economy and society by pivoting away from the country's heavy oil dependency. Vision 2030 isn't just an economic plan, it's a complete societal makeover for the country. The goal is to diversify the economy, embrace tourism, and fundamentally change how the world sees Saudi Arabia. And sports are a central part of that strategy. Since this big old plan kicked off in 2016, Saudi Arabia has invested, as I said, over $6 billion in the sports industry through their $900 billion sovereign wealth fund, the Public Investment Fund. And that kind of change ain't play money. That's a massive investment in soft power. The sports investments serve multiple purposes, though. They bring international attention to Saudi Arabia, they create tourism revenue, they provide entertainment for their young population, which 63% of Saudis are under 30, and most importantly, they help reshape the country's global image. As the Crown Prince said in a 2023 interview, he doesn't really care about sports washing criticism as long as his strategy yields results like GDP growth. That's the mindset we're dealing with here, everybody. Results over perception, economics over ethics. And that brings me roundabout to WWE. WWE was actually one of Saudi Arabia's first major combat sports targets. They started with house shows in 2014, but the real partnership began in 2018 with, as you remember, a 10-year, $1 billion deal that pays WWE upwards of $50 million per year. WWE's total revenue in 2024 was $1.398 billion. Saudi Arabia is paying them roughly 4% of their entire annual revenue just to host weird events there twice a year. And parent company TKO, of course, wants even more. The Saudi events have been controversial from day one. Daniel Bryan and John Cena pulled out of Crown Jewel 2018 after the Jamal Khashoggi murder, and women's matches were banned for years before slowly being allowed, just with, everything covered. But as we all know, none of that really mattered to WWE's bottom line or CM Punk's apology tour. The Saudi money was too good to pass on, and now the company is doubling down out there. The Royal Rumble in 2026 will be the first of WWE's big four events held in Saudi Arabia, followed by, as I mentioned, WrestleMania 43 in 2027. And again, that's breaking 42 years of tradition by leaving North America for the first time. WWE President Nick Khan said it perfectly, so let's quote the man. WWE is a global enterprise, and it only made sense to continue our relationship with the kingdom. Translation there, we getting paid, so we gonna do it. To bring it back to the top, what exactly is Riyadh season? That thing I mentioned earlier. It's Saudi Arabia's massive entertainment festival that runs from October through March most of the year. And it's become the umbrella brand for their entire sports takeover strategy. And Riyadh season is overseen by this guy, Turki Alalshikh, chairman of Saudi Arabia's General Entertainment Authority, the guy that got booed out of the building at Canelo vs. Crawford on Netflix, and the man that the British media calls the most influential figure in boxing. Alalshikh is a close confidant to the Saudi Crown Prince and has unlimited resources to make his vision a reality. Vision 2030, baby. The Riyadh Season Festival covers over 7.2 million square meters with 14 entertainment zones, and it's where Saudi Arabia hosts its biggest sporting events. So that's WWE shows, major boxing matches, UFC events, tennis expositions. They all happen under that Riyadh Season banner. Saudi Arabia subsidizes ticket prices, pays fighters massive guaranteed purses, and creates experiences that would be financially impossible pretty much anywhere else. They're trying to buy influence, credibility, and global attention. When you see Riyadh Season plastered across every major combat sports event, you're seeing soft power in action. And Saudi Arabia's impact goes way beyond just hosting events. They're changing how combat sports work by eliminating the traditional business models that have governed these industries for decades. For example, let's take boxing. Alalshikh has done something unprecedented there. He's broken through the promotional gridlock that prevented super fights by offering guaranteed purses that made pay-per-view points irrelevant. Fighters like Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua are getting paid up front for these fights rather than gambling on pay-per-view buys. And the UFC followed suit. In March 2025, TKO Group announced a new boxing promotion in partnership with Saudi Arabia, of course, that will operate under the UFC model. Guaranteed purses, centralized matchmaking, and streaming-first distribution. Dana White, UFC president, announced they're partnering with Alalshikh to, quote, revolutionize boxing by applying the UFC's unified championship system to boxing. So instead of 4 different sanctioning bodies with different champions, they want 1 champion per weight class. In their defense, that kind of simplifies everything. And that sounds pretty great for fans, but it gives Saudi Arabia effective control over who fights whom and when. When one entity controls both the money and the matchmaking, they control the entire sport. For wrestling fans specifically, like me, and maybe like you, this Saudi takeover raises serious questions about the future of our favorite promotions. WWE's Saudi deal has already changed how the company operates. Storylines get altered or ignored to accommodate Saudi cultural restrictions, and now, with the Royal Rumble and WrestleMania heading to Riyadh, Saudi Arabia has effective veto power over WWE's biggest events. That's plain to see. And Saudi can also get them to bring some skeletons out of retirement for one more match, as we've seen before. Shawn Michaels. The money is just so significant that WWE can't afford to say no. Over $50 million per year and $100 million for just WrestleMania means WWE will not fight over creative decisions or ethical concerns to have these shows. That creates a dangerous precedent where foreign government has de facto creative control over American entertainment companies. What happens when storylines conflict with Saudi interests? What happens when wrestlers speak out about issues that Saudi Arabia doesn't want discussed? Don't know. We're already seeing this play out in other sports. In September of 2024, a journalist from The Telegraph had his credentials revoked at a Saudi-hosted boxing event for criticizing the Saudi regime. And I imagine more of that will come. As you can imagine, the reception from wrestling fans has not been positive. Many believe that if WrestleMania was finally going to leave North America, it should go to the UK or elsewhere in Europe, places with passionate wrestling fan bases that have been waiting for decades for this great honor. So here's what's really happening. Saudi Arabia is using sports to buy global legitimacy and influence. This isn't about creating great entertainment, although that could be a byproduct. It's about normalizing Saudi Arabia's presence in every aspect of global culture. When you see Riyadh Season sponsoring UFC events in Las Vegas or hosting boxing matches at Wembley Arena where they play the Saudi national anthem on British soil, you're witnessing soft power projection on a massive scale. Saudi Arabia's goal isn't to make money from sports, it's to use sports to make money from tourism, business partnerships, and global trade relationships. Sports are the Trojan horse for a much larger economic and political objective. And for combat sports specifically, this creates a problematic dynamic where authentic competition becomes secondary to geopolitical theater. When governments are bankrolling events to advance national interests rather than sporting excellence, the integrity of competition inevitably might suffer. Saudi Arabia's takeover of combat sports is here to stay because the math is pretty simple. They have unlimited money and these promotions want it. WWE, UFC, and boxing organizations can't compete with nation-state funding. And as fans, we need to understand that our favorite promotions are increasingly beholden to foreign governments with their own agendas. But is this all necessarily bad? That depends on what you value more, spectacular events funded by unlimited resources or independent creative control that's somewhat free from political influence. Somewhat. What we're witnessing here isn't just Saudi Arabia taking over combat sports, it's the template for how authoritarian regimes can buy influence in democratic societies through entertainment. Today, it's WrestleMania in Riyadh. Tomorrow, it might be the Super Bowl in Riyadh. Who knows? The question isn't whether Saudi Arabia will continue investing in combat sports. They will. The question is whether fans will accept that their favorite promotions are now operating as soft power tools for foreign governments, and we may not have a choice in the matter. So what do you think? Are you excited about the Saudi expansion of combat sports and entertainment, or are you concerned about what it means for the independence of American entertainment? You can let me know in the comments, and be sure to like.
Oooo Chavo!